Steve, we're back again for another episode of the Steel Target Paint Podcast. How have you been?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing fantastic. You been doing much shooting?
Yeah, had a training session this past weekend. So we started off, it was 39 degrees in the shade and ended up being a nice weekend. So we had a great time. How about you, Jeff?
You know, I haven't had a chance to shoot much steel, but I've been shooting a lot of USPSA. I think I talked about the monster match over at Universal, and then we just had the custom gun at the Hanson range in Punta Gorda. But I'm hoping to get back into some of the steel game first of the year and getting prepared for, what we all call the Nationals, but that's the U.S. Steel Shoot.
Hey, Jeff, we've got a great one today.
Who have we got on the podcast today, Steve?
We've got Ron Oliver. Everybody, how you doing, Ron?
Oh, we're doing fantastic, man. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Doing
really
great. Glad you're on, Ron. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. And listen to a few of your podcasts and really enjoy what y'all are doing.
Well, Ron, I've known you for, it's probably been 4 or 5 years or so since the first time we met down at the Griffin Gun Club. What disciplines do you shoot? I know a lot of people know you from Steel Challenge and now Rimfire Challenge. What other disciplines do you shoot?
Guys, anything with steel. I actually love shooting steel. From the Pro-Am to the USPSA, one of my disadvantages is I am probably 2.5 hours away from the closest USPSA match. So shooting Steel Challenge, I have a home range. Hint, hint, Jeff.
Yeah. Rub that in. Rub it in.
Yep. Sorry. Had to throw it in there. And I do training here with some shooters and things of that nature. But Steel's so much fun because it's so family oriented. Like we've talked about and everything is that my family's involved in it now. So
sure.
That's what makes it more worthwhile for me,
Well, speaking of family, Ron, for those that don't know, there's a great video. I remember seeing it, and there's probably a lot of videos, but the one I remember that sticks in my mind is your daughter Venice is about ready to shoot Outer Limits, and she's getting ready, and the arrow goes, "Are you ready?" And she turns and she looks at him. She goes, "I'm ready." And it was just, it just melts your heart watching the kid. And how old is Venice now?
She is 9.
She's 9, and she was probably about 8. It was about a year old. And it's great seeing them out there and being safe and being respectful of the guns, but also just, out there competing and having fun. That's fantastic that you've done that for your kids. And your son shoots too, Noah, correct?
Yes. So he started this past year, started at the Georgia Steel match, which is in Griffin. Venice started 2 years ago. She's actually going on to her 3rd year. And her most famous line, anybody that hears me or knows she's around, is yep. Are you ready? It is yep. And it is loud.
Oh, yeah.
And every RO that has never RO'd her before, never been around her, they actually pause because they're snickering. Because they think it's just the cutest thing. And we, since we had to go to Chamber Flag, she has Team Yep. And, my wife wears a Team Yep shirt now. So it's very family oriented.
That's fantastic. So now when you're at a big match and you've got the family in tow, how does that work out for you?
God bless my wife. She makes sure we're fed and watered. She's watching after the kids because, we don't want the kids to disturb people. And, the Lord blessed me with 2 amazing kids. They're going to be kids. They're going to get rowdy, but they understand that people are there competing. They understand what's on the line. And Venice is one of those that will compete with anything. If you want to pick up rocks and throw rocks so get on the feathers, she's going to be standing toe-to-toe with you. Noah's my bullseye shooter. He's more technical when it comes to shooting, so he's slower. So I'm like, come on, son, you got to speed up. Of course, we're not saying anything. I have to let them run their course, and that's one thing that I'm very adamant about is when they're on the line, unless they do something that's unsafe, they don't hear a word from me until after they're done. I'm like, you had a miss. And I think that's really important for parents because we all want to just jump up and go, you got to miss, you got to miss. And, you know, we can't do that in the sport because of the coaching rules. And, you know, we've had several long conversations about the coaching rules, what could be said, what couldn't be said. And that's really tough with a young shooter. As I'm on the line with them, it's more stressful than me shooting because as a parent, I'm making sure they're safe, nothing happens to them. But in a competitor, I'm making sure they're doing everything that they should be as efficiently as they should, you know, to get the lowest score. So this past year, Venice actually started running on outer limits, which she had to prove to me that she had to be safe with it. And when she went into her first match and shot it this year, she was tickled to death. I mean, just absolutely tickled that she could actually transfer from box to box and shoot it just as fast as standing still, and nobody gave her grief over it.
That's awesome.
And, you know, that's one thing that I'll point out is y'all have had the discussion, the penalties on outer limits. You know, it's been from 2 seconds, 3 seconds, whatever. When I go to a match with the kids, I find the match director right off the bat, and I ask them, what is your penalty for transferring? And Noah's still not transferring. He's standing still. And most match directors will look at him and go, okay, well, it's a procedural every time, or it's one procedural carried, or they're 6 years old as Noah. We're not going to give a 6-year-old a penalty, you know. So I advise anybody with a child that's, you know, shooting still challenge, gets outer limits, check with your match director first and see what their call is, because you don't want to get to the line and go, well, what's the penalty for not moving? And then your ROs are standing there going, well, I don't know, and they're having to call somebody on the radio, and they're coming down, and it's kind of delaying things. If you kind of have it laid out ahead of time, it just helps speed things up and take some of the stress off of you.
That's a really good point. Thanks for sharing that. So now let me ask you this. You know, there's a lot of people out there that have got youth shooters, and they're not shooters. In your case, you are a shooter.
Right.
For yourself, do you find it easier to not shoot in the same squad, and so you can focus on just making sure the kids are, as you point out, safe and performing at their best without, you know, getting on top of them?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it goes back to a match a couple of years ago, or actually just last year. Let me say that. Venice and Noah are both shooting, and for time restraints, I had to shoot 2 guns. I had 5 guns that I was watching after, and I didn't have the time to paint. So my wife steps up, she runs down, she's helping paint, she's helping load magazines. It was just exhausting. I mean, absolutely exhausting. I mean, if you can imagine yourself going to a match and shoot 5 guns, 8 stages, 4 hours. It was just way too much. So I stepped back and said, okay, this is what we're going to have to do. It's going to be another day missed from work. You know, we all experience that. But the kids will shoot first, because if they shoot later on, they kind of lose the interest at being at the gun range the entire time. So I let them go first. So if we go in, like we did East Coast last year, they shot on Thursday. They shot with the ROs and a few other people. And then the rest of the time was me. You know, it was me to compete. with the family in tow, though, it's still a lot, because even if you showed up and you had, your wife and kids there, as the dad, you're still thinking, okay, are they bored? Are they okay? They're out shopping. You're checking your phone. Are they still okay? Because we're in a strange place. We're in a different state. And that weighs on your mind a lot. So it was totally an unexpected challenge that I'm faced with, but at the same time, I'll accept the challenge to pass the sport on to them.
Excellent. And, I don't think anybody, or they may not have realized, but in this, you've really given another tip when you're a shooter and you've got youth shooters, and that is contacting a match director and saying, I'm happy to pay for all of my shooters, but is it possible for me to shoot on RO day or have my kids shoot on RO day, to give you that opportunity, gain that extra day, gain that extra possibly two sessions to where you can let the kids focus on their stuff and then you can focus on your shooting afterwards.
Oh, definitely. And most ROs, or match directors, they are so willing to help you.
Yep.
Especially when you say you've got youth, they are so willing to help you. And over the years, we actually found some restraints about age limits and things like that. And I understand, because of insurance and things of that nature. So we have to take an extra step, because you can't find any information on a lot of the websites about their range rules. So I'm contacting match directors going, hey, do y'all have an age limit? And every time I get a response, I don't know. So now they're having to find something out, if we can compete or not as a family. And, 90% of the time we can, because they, the ranges are very willing to let any youth shooter show up. But some ain't, and I totally understand it, because they don't know how the parent has trained the child. That's a biggie, because I have trained children, and the parents are kind of like tense and very overprotective, that it makes the child nervous, or it makes the child nervous even being around me. I mean, I've had kids, tell me before, I seen you at a match and I didn't say nothing because you look concentrated and things like that. And I always tell them, no, if you ever see me at the range, come talk to me. I have the competitor face on, that I'm concentrating or studying times or whatever. But always come talk to me. Ask me anything you want to ask, and I'll be happy to help or point you in the right direction or lend you equipment. We've done that several times.
Oh yeah.
We I actually had two youth shooters. They were new to the sport, about a year in, and I had shot my rimfire pistol open, and I was done with it. And a young lady struggled on her first stage. I mean, it was jam, jam, jam. It was cold outside. Things just wasn't going her way. So I grabbed my pistol out of my bag. Here you go, shoot it. And she's like, really? Shoot it. I know where you're at. You're not leaving the range. And the dad didn't know what to say. So she shot the entire match. The gun still wasn't cleaned, nothing that. And the following day, a young lady, she was just out of the youth division. Same thing happened with her gun. I bring that pistol out. I hand it to her. I said, shoot the match. And she, the same thing. No, we'll get through it. I said, no. I said, you don't get through a match. You have fun when things bad go wrong. Here's an opportunity to shoot a brand new Vorkortsen pistol. Have fun. And, that's my testimony to the Vorkortsens is, it shot 3 solid matches back to back and never failed. So that's a biggie to me, is to helping everybody out. And y'all discussed it before. That's a biggie for us.
Yep. Well, I think, I mean, I've seen Steve lend guns. I've lent guns. I've borrowed guns. And, it's interesting because you've got your family there. But to me, like going to a match, yeah, I want to compete and I want to do well. But I really enjoy seeing, my extended family, if you will, of all the shooters. And you can go down the line, the Braggs and Chase and Cole and you guys and David Kaiser and just you could just go on and on and on and on with all these people that you just can't wait to see, because we're all out there having fun and competing in something we love. And I mean, I'm down here in Florida, and there's a lot of Florida shooters down here, Nealon and Fishkin and Dandini, and we're coming up to Georgia and South Carolina and Alabama and shooting all these matches for all the same reasons. We love competing and love seeing the people, and it's a big extended family. And starting this podcast, Steve and I said, let's talk to our friends, let's get this information out to people, and it's been great. And again, really thanks for sharing on that stuff, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, people ask me about the sport and what I do and traveling and all that. And traveling with the family, there is extended cost. Obviously, now that you're having to find hotel rooms with 2 beds and you're having to buy 4 meals and things to that nature. So you have to be very cost effective, when you're traveling to these matches. I also tell people in this family, if we're traveling across country, because we have to drive so much, because, I mean, my gosh, we're carrying 14 guns now and 4 people, you don't fly like that. You
no.
can't.
You're weighing the plane down with all that hardware and ammo.
Yeah, right. Now,
if they found all those guns, there'd be some gloves involved, I'm sure.
Yeah. So here's the kicker. Somebody hears that you're driving. Oh, you're driving up there? Oh, can you take my gear? So here's another 4 guns and another 2,000 rounds of ammo. And you're driving through all these states going, just don't get stopped.
Yeah.
Stopped.
Are these all yours? Yes, they're all mine. Every one of them is mine.
Yeah, here's a copy of my FFL. We're good.
Hey, Ron, I want to back up real quick, and I saw something out on Facebook that you and I talked about. I don't know, it's been a week and a half or so ago, about Noah. When did he start shooting, and can you tell everybody about his big accomplishment that he had that we talked about?
Oh, man, that kid just tickles the heck out of me. So he started shooting the same age as Venice at 5. We have some steel plates that we can shoot out to 400 yards here at the house. And there's some really small ones. There's some bigger ones to that nature. So to try to push Venice into shooting a little bit different stuff, I built her a bullseye 22 rifle. And I set her on the bench, and I doped the scope out, and I said, just put the crosshairs on it, sweetie. I said, just here's your breathing technique, all that. She's just ringing this thing. And Noah's like, let me try. So he's sitting there, and he's concentrating, breaks the trigger, shoots I believe it was the 3-inch plate at about 300 yards is where we were sitting at. I was like, okay, try it again. So he does. And like I was saying, he's more technical than she is, just the different personalities and everything else. So he's my hunter, he's my fisher. I can put him on a boat with me, and me and him can fish all day. Venice is ready to walk on water to get off the boat. I mean, she that's just her. But me and him, we hunt, we fish, and I truly love passing that heritage on to him and hunting. So the past year, I'd built him a new rifle for hunting because he was big enough to control the recoil of a little bit larger rifle. And we had set up, I had took a pretty nice 9-pointer, and he got really mad. He was like, Daddy, that was my deer. That was my deer. And I was like, okay, son, that was your deer. Okay. I said, but we've got another 8-pointer on the trail camera that's really nice. I said, but we'll have to wait till rifle season. So as me and him do on Sundays, we watch hunting shows or, you know, Gold Rush or whatever. It's Sunday's family day for us. And we're watching a hunting show. He sees a crossbow. He's like, Daddy, I can shoot your crossbow. I said, oh, okay. So he tells me again, I can shoot your crossbow. I said, okay. So I come in, grab the crossbow, put a bipod on it. I take him out to 20 yards, and there's a dot painted about an inch and a half, about 20 yards. I said, you put a bolt on that white dot, I will take you and let you hunt with that crossbow. First shot, he drills it. I said, okay,
Cool.
let's try this again, just to make sure. He drills it again. He's looking through there. He goes, Daddy, this has got a red dot. I can shoot it. But okay. So the next following weekend, we go out, we set up, and the 8-pointer come in, and he drilled it. And just a really, really nice. It's on video. It's on my Facebook. I'm sure y'all have seen it.
Yeah.
His eyes are just as big as silver dollars, everything of that nature. And when rifle season came in, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, I said, come on, let's go rifle hunting. He's kind of like, no, I'm playing with my Legos. I said, no, let's go up to the pasture. I said, it's a good evening. Let's walk up there. So we walk up, and we're overseeing the pasture, and as soon as we walk up, there's deer out in the fields. So we kind of get up in the stand, and I look across. I said, buddy, there's a nice little deer up there. And I kind of looked through the scope. I said, oh, he's got a drop tine, you know. So he gets all excited, and we waited on this deer. It took me about 10 times of me actually finding the deer, get him set up, and get him on the rifle before he could actually take the shot. And he just took a perfect shot. It was out about 152 yards and just dropped it. And he was just ecstatic. I wish I had it all on video, but the deer was way below us in a valley, and he was actually sitting on my legs trying to hold the rifle, and I'm holding the buttstock, you know, keep it up high enough because he's shooting down.
I'm getting a picture here of like this Rube Goldberg getting set up to shoot this deer.
It really was. And of course, me with, you know, being excited, I'm shaking. He's sitting there just vibrating, you know, because you get that buck fever running through you. And I'm like, just settle down. He's away from all because there was so many does out there. That's where he kept losing it. He's like, Daddy, I don't know which one it is. Because I kind of looked around, and there's like 5 or 6 does around him, and he's got his head down in tall grass eating. I was like, okay, let's wait till he gets off by himself, you know. And just a memory that will never leave. You know, every hunting adventure always has stories, and that's what I love is the stories that come behind them.
Very, very cool. Appreciate you sharing that with us, Ron.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to jump back to the family at the range. You know, one of the things that I preach to the kids, and this actually I preach to the adults as well, is the range courtesy. Every time we leave an RO, you know, I have the kids go up and say thank you, and just that common courtesy. It means so much because every one of those ROs that are standing out there, they're there willingly. You know, and I've been out in weather from 19 degrees to 119 degrees, and those ROs are hanging in there with us. And when they see the kids and me up there, you just see them smile.
Let me ask you this, Ron. I saw some pictures. I think it was out on Instagram as well as Facebook. I think it was a lower to a PCC. What do you got cooking there in the oven over there at your shop?
Well, it's not a PCC.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, you're going to have to stay tuned on that one. It's not a PCC. And kind of goes back to that love that I have for hunting. So you'll just have to stay tuned on that one.
Cool.
He's
I'm on
not.
the edge
He's
of my
not giving
seat.
out any secrets, there, Steve. I don't know. We might have a bad connection here, and have to end this this
Hey,
right
Jeff,
now.
at least I got out of him. It's not a PCC. That's a step in the right direction, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, right. Yeah, no, yeah, that's the Palmetto State Armory lower that you've seen, and
Yeah.
we're gonna put something together because we coyote hunt a lot around some farms up here, and so we're gonna put something together that can reach out and touch. I mean, just to say it, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So you'll have to
Cool.
stay tuned for the video.
Good
We'll
deal.
all be watching Facebook and Instagram for that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So, Ron, you shoot a number of divisions in Steel Challenge. What's your practice routine?
Oh, it varies. If we're going to nationals, going to the World Shoot, the East Coast match, and all that, I'm on the range every day, at least 500 rounds, probably 4 to 5 weeks before the match. I try to catch any state level matches or other matches. It's really hard for club matches around me because there's not any. I mean, Griffin is my closest still match, and that's 2.5 hours away. So my practice regimen is just on that range, and it's working on my timing, working on my sight picture, and just the fundamentals. You know, when you just working off that beep is a biggie. If you're just there practicing one stage over and over and over and over and over, it's actually harming to a shooter. If you sit on a stage, say Pendulum, y'all all love Pendulum, but guess what? That's one of my favorite ones, guys.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because
I knew there was something off about you, Ron. Now I know what it is.
yeah, yeah. It is actually one of my favorite ones. I actually am. I'm one of those weirdos that like technical stages. So if I go out, I will practice Pendulum. I will run it 5 times, just like a match. If there's something wrong, say there's from 4 to 3 plate, something's wrong. I'm not coming down low enough with the gun. I will change my plate size. I will actually go smaller. So instead of shooting that tiny looking 10-inch, throw a 6-inch up there and see how tiny it gets. And what it helps for me is as I'm transferring, I'm trying to bullseye that target just a little harder.
Right.
Pendulum is not one that you can sweep. Outer limits you can't sweep. You know, there 5 to go you can't sweep. I mean, you can try, but you won't be consistent at it.
Right.
And so as I'm training, as I'm practicing, that's what I look for in myself. The whole, you know, off the timer and all that, if you're at the range practicing going fast, you're already practicing that beep. You know, you can get to Smoke and Hope, which I know y'all speak about a lot. When you shoot that hard stuff and you go to Smoke and Hope, you'll see your reaction time is right where it's supposed to be. You'll see that 0.3 to 0.35 reaction time because as you're bringing, especially a rifle, into the pocket, you got so used to bringing it into the pocket shooting such a small target that big target, you'll just see bullseyes. I mean, your first shot's going to be a nice group. So that's the reason why I practice a little bit more technical shooting when I practice. To be honest, I don't even practice Smoke and Hope, and I don't practice Showdown at all. There's a lot faster shooters out there that have a lot better eye coordination than I do, So shooting that, they're going to be faster. So I study on the more technical side to where I can have a 8.5 second pendulum, and I'm happy with a 6.5, 7 second smoking hope, because those times will kind of average out. And Steve, you know this, and Jeff, you know it as well, is, these kids are kicking our tails.
Oh, yeah.
Haven't noticed, Ron.
It's funny because the first year that USPSA or Steel Challenge recognized the rimfire rifle, the state match at that time was the Georgia state match at Griffin, in the winter. Of course, it's so lovely. Weather's beautiful.
Hey, the good news is Ronnie's pushing it back a month, so it's not going to be the first weekend of February because of the Super Bowl. It's going to be the first weekend in March, so maybe it won't be 32. Maybe it'll be 38 degrees when we start.
When that blizzard happened in '93, was you down here then?
No, I wasn't. I was still up north.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, it happened I believe it's the last week of April.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or yeah, somewhere in there.
It's nice and warm in Florida year round. Everybody, we come to Florida.
But keep in mind, there's a lot more people like Jeff down there.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, sorry.
So, buddy, I love you and all, but I'm kind of happy up here in the mountains. And,
Hey, but Ron,
could you see me in the mountains with the echo? That would be amazing.
I can't even see my neighbor, and that's my mother in the front yard. Okay. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Oh, too.
And recently we had the Gallaghers down, and if y'all don't know or have never met Bailey, she is an amazing young lady.
She
for people that don't know, she is almost deaf, and she took to the shooting sport amazingly. She loves it. You can see her at the range. She always has a smile, and so I was lucky enough to have her on my shooting team. Got with them. They came down for a week, and we trained. And the whole time, I'm trying to figure out how to work with her, because one of her disadvantages is hearing the ring of the steel or the beep of the timer as fast as we do. So it was a challenge for me to try to figure out, and I talked to her dad a lot to figure out, because we wear hearing protection, she does as well, but her hearing protection amplifies the sound to where she can hear as well as cancel the sound. So any electronic has a delay to it. So as she hears that signature, and she told me before we even started, I said, what do you look for? I said, do you try to listen for the ring or nothing? She goes, no, I put the dot in the middle, and I trust my dot. And I was like, right on.
That's bringing a tear to my eye just sitting here thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. I had so much fun when they came down, and every time I work with somebody, I learn as well, and that's a benefit of having classes and traveling to ranges and setting up and having a group of people or whatever. Is I learn from people just as much as I feel that I'm teaching them. And going back to the youth, I've learned more from the youth than any adult, good or bad. It's because I have to practice what I preach more. And Steve, you should relate to this, as you've started in the adventure of training youth and adults. You're finding yourself practicing what you preach more.
That's right. You're exactly right, Ron.
So that's been one of the bigger helps in my shooting adventures, is as I'm at the range and there's somebody there I've worked with before or whatever, I'm like, crud. I got to do what I told them to do. So don't show them no bad habits, kind of deal. But it's it's entertaining at times. I tell you what, and circling back to that whole family at the range thing, I tell people this. I said, you get into the shooting sports, and it don't matter, because when I was in high school, I shot clays and traveled with it, not as far as I've been traveling with USPSA and Steel Challenge, but right now, if I was across country, I had my family with me, and something happened, I could go through a list of contacts or get on Facebook and find somebody that's close enough and go, hey, cars broke down, we're out of gas, 100 things could happen. Could you give us a hand? And they would be there instantly. And the only time we see each other is at the range. We don't sit down. We got Thanksgiving here, and, they're not that close of a family. But when we're at the range, it's a huge family. It's pretty amazing.
I agree.
And it's really cool, Ron, because when you travel around the country, it's like you pick up right where you just left off, and that could have been 3 months ago out in California or in Pennsylvania or what have you. I agree. You stated that well. It's a big extended family.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it boggles me sometimes that how large, excuse me, it boggles me sometimes how large our family has became,
Well, that's it. I mean, I know, I started shooting really local stuff, but then, nationals last year, and I didn't really know anybody, and I met a number of people there. Shout outs to Tony Pruitt and Billy Hall and Connor Sullivan, and I got to meet Steve. We talked online, but Ron, that in that year I didn't really get a chance to meet you. But then over the next couple of matches I've been to Griffin for the freezer match, if you will.
Yeah, the freezer match, good.
Using hand warmers to keep your ammo warm.
Yeah. Oh, hey, and that's a biggie. Talking about taking care of the equipment. Now you're taking care of your equipment with all these hand warmers. Imagine 2 extra range bags and 2 extra guns or 3 extra guns, and I should own stock in hand warmers just when we shoot that Georgia match.
But again, I mean, the stories go on and on. You talk about family and you talk about, the people and again, I mean, I'll relate a great story, and it was at that match, and I think it was Teddy Gartman's daughter, and she was on our squad, and the front fiber of her gun came out, and she looked at the RO, who happened to be Zach Jones. She says, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "What happened?" She's like, "I don't have a fiber." I said, "Zach, can she step off the line?" "Yes, she can." "Great." I said, I ran to my car, of course. Old guy, overweight, gets to the car, huffing and puffing.
Ron, you should see the video. I've got all the video.
Oh, we have video. Okay, so you don't have video of Jeff falling, but we have video of Jeff running.
Oh, yeah. So long story short, I had fiber in the car. We got her fixed up, and I had never met them, but for the first time at that match. And again, it's just what we do. That same match, Eric Jensen's gun went down. Steve went, "I got one in the car."
Yeah.
It's just what this family does. Yeah. I would rather see a competitor borrow my gun and beat me, honestly, than not see them compete.
Right.
Well, not only not compete, is we've all had that day at the range. And matter of fact, I just had it at Alabama. We've had some loss in our family, and so I haven't been shooting. Matter of fact, I shot the Pro-Am, and it's bad for me to say, I have not shot nothing until the Alabama match. I actually canceled out on some fantastic matches, but there again, you take care of your family first.
Yep.
And I grabbed the guns out of the safes, bag them up, make sure they're a little dirty, but hey, we're fine. Let's go shoot. And the rimfire rifle, it was clicking right along, and it failed to eject the empty hole. And, it's my fault. I did not properly clean it, one, before storing it, and two, before a match even. And so my smoke and hope time was like a 9-second because I had to eat just a horrible string over that. So the whole match preparation with the family, that is a daunting task. You out of all the divisions that I shoot, and that, between Venice and Noah, that's 3 more divisions. I have to sit one afternoon from 6 o'clock when I get into the shop till 9, 10 o'clock. That's all I'm doing is cleaning these guns and making sure that they're, checking springs, checking everything that can pop its head up at a match, what I typically do. And it is a daunting task. And you'll see me shooting a couple of different divisions this year. I'll give you all a little heads up. I'm actually going to start, as they shoot more, I'm going to kind of back off 1 or 2 at this match or that match and pick up a new division just to have fun with the kids and challenge myself a little bit more with them.
Revolver?
Yeah, there might be a revolver. They might be a carry optic, a production, a single stack. They're all sitting here.
Well, it's funny you say that because, our good friend Zach Jones has just got his 12th classification. He's got 1 more to go. And I think in 2019, that's one thing I'm going to go for, too, is to actually be one of the people who was classified in all 13 divisions.
Yeah, and, that talk's been going around, and I'm kind of looking out. It's like, you know what, that does sound fun. And
Yeah.
it's, not only fun, but we have a great game we go out and shoot that you can shoot 13 divisions.
Yep.
Now, to grandmaster 13 divisions, you're going to put a lot of work in,
Absolutely.
Time and money.
Not only a lot of money. Yeah, that was my next thing is money. I mean, my reloader presses are sitting here going, please feed me. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. That just to challenge myself on some basic skills and kind of get back to the basics. I've ran the open guns for so long. I run limited guns, now and then. My eyes just don't like iron sights. They never have. So I think I want to back up and challenge myself a little bit more, and kind of put myself into the shoes of the kids. Because you got to realize the kids, they're shooting in, Venice is about 120 seconds is what she's shooting in. And I want to kind of step back and go, okay, I want to see what her struggle is. I want to pick up a production gun and try to shoot it and see where I stand with it and see how I would have to train to get that much better in something I'm weak in, if that, makes sense.
Actually, it does. Makes a lot of sense. And I'll be honest with you, I came out this past weekend. We had our local match, shot carry optics, and I didn't feel any pressure because I didn't have any expectations. And it was kind of enjoyable. I mean, it was different. I mean, I'm not saying that I want to go out there and necessarily, every time I shoot rimfire rifle, I'm going to shoot personal best and all that. But those, rimfire rifle, PCC, rimfire pistols, those are the ones that I've been successful in. And so picking up a gun where I have no expectations, it just added an element of I can just go out here and shoot. And if I have a bad string or if I have a bad stage, it's not a big deal. It's the first time I've ever shot it. And so I can absolutely see where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, exactly. And, there's even shooting the open guns in divisions that we're so familiar with. And Jeff, I'm reminded by this because of this past year at Nationals, you come running up and, son, you was on top of the world. You was just like, I shot the best match I've ever shot, and, you wasn't just on top of the world. Your voice was being heard throughout the whole gun range. That
and the adjacent county gun range.
You just had this amazing time with your PCC and all that, and you're telling me, it's all in your head, and you got to clear your head. And as you walk away, I said, "Go away, Jeff." And I was really happy for you. I'm happy for anybody that feels that, because I have felt that at a match. I have, going back to Steel Challenge, because that's what we can relate to. We know exactly what we're supposed to do, what's a good day, what's a bad day.
Yep.
That's what's so fun. So it was a couple of years ago at Nationals. We'll say Nationals a lot because that's where we benchmark the year at, it seems like.
Yep.
But I go and shoot a 22 rifle, and when I get to outer limits, it was no misses. It was the smoothest I'd ever shot in a match. I've shot it faster in practice, but I turn over and I look at the score, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was like 10.02 is what my score was.
Wow.
For 3 strings. And I look at it, and it was my last stage to shoot, and I said, won't ever do that again. But it was one of those moments. There was no nerves. My head was clear. The whole Zen thing that people speak of, it was just one of those moments. And I ended up with that match, I think I was 66 point something. I was almost at that 65 mark, that my match score. And I was like, once I got into the 60s, it was like, okay, I want to break that 65 mark. And I was that close. I was so close to it. I think it was probably about a tenth or 2/10 breaking into that 65 mark. And I was like, man, I was so close. But the feeling that I had all day, just talking to people, there was no care, there was no stress, there was no, I was just doing the natural rhythms, everything I practice, and, there was just nothing in my head. And it kind of sounds crazy, but we've all had times we've got up to the line, and we're like, crap, this is accelerator. So 1, 2, slow down a little bit, big plate, little plate, stop plate. And you're going through that in your head, and you shoot it, and you go, wait a minute, my timing's off. What's wrong? What's wrong? You start getting in your head a little bit, and there's really nothing wrong except you. There's, and that's the truth of it. There's nothing wrong. It's just you, and you gotta break that cycle. And really, one way you can break that cycle is shoot a lot more matches, and to where your mind will start easing off and go, okay, I need to do this, and that's it. You stand around and talk, and you look up and go, oh, we're about to shoot roundabout. Okay, let's go shoot roundabout. And the cadence, the rhythm. You shoot it. It sounds right. It feels good. There's a good time.
No, you're absolutely right, Ron. Every range is different too. Steve can attest to coming down here to the Wyoming Antelope Club. It's a range like you've never seen. We're outdoors, yeah, but the covered bays. And I joke with people, but it's very true. It is definitely a home field advantage if you've never shot in this environment before. But you could go to Frostproof and Volusia, and they're outside, but a bay running east-west, very different than a bay running north-south. And so, yeah, getting to those different ranges, the different experiences, shadows, and let's face it, most match directors try to get their matches and their stages set up as perfect as possible. But sometimes that roundabout might be at 4'6" or 5'6".
Yeah.
And or other stages, and again, you can't go, well, I'm not going to shoot it, that's not right. No, you get up there to line and you shoot it, and you have to deal with it, and being prepared for that, and going, you know what, I know what I need to do. I need to get up there and I need to do it. I need to see my shots, I need to call my shots, and I need to shoot this like I know I can shoot it, and not let that stuff get to you. And you don't get that unless you get to a lot of different ranges and a lot of different matches. So I agree 100% on that.
Yeah, definitely. Because I've been to ranges before, and they've had steel challenge set up, and the RO or another competitor or something go, dude, they're going to be mad. This ain't set up right, or this or that, and they'll ask me, hey, take a look at this. What's wrong with it? And I'll kind of stand in the box and look at it and go, well, it's a little high or it's a little low, but guess what? Everybody's shooting it this match, so it's a level
Bingo.
playing field. I
Yep.
said, they can't change it. ROs have done shot, or, the first day's done shot. They can't change it. So now you're faced with this. And that kind of takes me back to shooting clays. There was guys that were shooting with me that were Olympic shooters. And I was truly blessed to grow up right outside of Atlanta and get to shoot Tom Little Shooting Grounds when the Olympics was there. And I would watch these guys practice, and the first thing they would get to that first box, and they'd go, okay, pull high house or pull low house, and they would watch the flight of that thing. And they could actually tell you if it was too slow, too fast, too high, or too low. They had memorized the flight path so much, and they would run out there and adjust it. Well, we don't get no luxury like that. If the match director gets out there and they set a stage up, if they set, and it brings me back to one I remember, they set pendulum up, and they had the boards cut the right length, but the bay had such a slope at it that I'm looking up, to shoot.
You're tall.
And I'm like, this ain't right. And that takes a accountability about being tall. And I tease a lot of the youth shooters that I work with and shorter adults is they actually have a better advantage than I do because I'm standing looking down. So everything's uneven. And if you drop your head down to about that 5-6 level, everything's straight across. And I'm like,
You know what he's talking about, Steve? The plates are perfect for me.
yeah.
Hey, Jeff, in case if you didn't know, I'm 5'0" and so they're all straight to me, brother.
Yeah.
Well, I'll never forget. We were at I think it was the South Carolina match, and I was embedded RO on one of the squads, and Ron got up there, and we actually had to move the tent for Ron
Yeah.
because it was like on his forehead.
Yeah,
Always got one for every squad.
I'm so thankful that the match help and, everybody gets out there, they set these tents up to try to keep us dry. But it's got to be on that last pin, guys. I mean, I have got into the box, and I think it was the one you're speaking of, Jeff, is I get into the box, and I look up with the pistol, and I hold the sights up, and the white bar to hold the thing is right. I mean, and my sight picture was an inch away from the pistol. I was like, yeah, let's just slide this out of the way. But
Pro tip from Ron Oliver.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
All the way up.
Yeah, put that 10 all the way up. And my height, I've got a really hard head because I've hit that thing on everything over the years.
How tall are you, Ron? 6'4", somewhere in there?
6'3".
Are you? All right.
Yeah.
Still a foot taller than me.
Yeah, I'm to the point now where I'm shrinking. I used to be 5'10". I think I'm 5'9" now.
Time to go bungee jumping.
I get it all the time when I shoot outer limits and people watch me transfer because I only take one step to transfer.
Oh, unfair advantage.
Yeah, really. Bad form.
And I get you're so smooth when you transfer. I said, I am, but I'm not. I can't push hard doing one step. If you try to do that one step and you push it too hard, it throws you way off.
Oh, yeah.
And even trying to run from, the back corner to the front corner, you really got to stay smooth. You got to drop that center of gravity. The problem is, the older I get at 6'3", dropping that center of gravity is getting tougher and tougher.
Don't want to drop it too far.
Yeah,
No, wait, 6'3" and how old, Ron? How old are you?
I'm 40.
40. Okay, you know, I'm making sure everybody knows that next year I'll be a senior, although it happens on the end of the World Speed Shoot, so it doesn't count for that match. But let me know how you feel in 14 years, okay?
Yeah. I heard you try to sandbag the World Speed Shoot.
I was trying to work my magic, and I failed miserably.
Yeah, I heard about that. And, you know, people wanted to start seeing driver's license and all this stuff. And, you know, Jeff, oh, no, I'm old enough. And, I mean, all he wants to do is go out and beat up on some older guys. And
That's right.
Well, at
Yeah,
least he's
Sutter and Grimes and all the other seniors are safe for another year.
I'll tell you a funny one about Suter real quick. And we were shooting nationals there again, the first time I ever met him. And it was the first time I'd shot nationals in the 60s. It was about a 68 or 69. This was the first year out of the Titusville range. So I shoot the match. I get done. He comes up, and, you know, John, you just got to love John. Super nice guy. Just always got that smile coming up, talking to you. And I didn't know who he was. He comes up to me. He's like, man, I've been watching all your times, you know. And he goes, dude, you're smoking. And he goes, but when I practice, I can beat your times in practice. And I looked at him and smiled. I said, you ought to see my practice times. and yeah, I didn't think about that. But, yeah, John, in talking about the kids, he loves the kids, and he tries to squad with us just to where he can mess with the kids. I mean, when the kids are on a squad with him, he acts like a big kid himself. I mean, you just got to love it.
Well, I know that feeling. You should have seen me at Area 6 where I got to shoot with Ting Ting, Elizabeth Browning.
Elizabeth Browning.
Yeah, and you know, we're getting ready, and it doesn't matter who was on, but we're getting ready to paint Outer Limits, and I looked at her, and I threw a can of paint to her, and I said, on 3, it's go. And she was ready to beat me, and so I went 1, 2, 3, and she took off, and I walked to the first plate. I said, you win.
But, you know, Ron, you talked about it earlier. These kids are fast. I've squatted recently with Elizabeth Browning, and oh, my goodness. And she hasn't been shooting a year yet, and holy cow, she keeps up her current level of progression. God help us. You know, Chase Orr's really turned it on the last 12 months. Ethan's shooting like a madman. Cole Bush, they're quick.
It's so funny because I've watched these kids grow, and I've watched Chase grow. You know, I've known his parents my whole life, and he was shooting some 4-H stuff and was bored with it. You know, just bullseye shooting, some pellet guns, and I invited him, matter of fact, down to Griffin, and it would have probably been about this time 4 years ago. So I said, come down and let me show what we're doing. Well, as soon as I take the first gun out of the case and Chase sees it, he was like, oh, I want to shoot that. You know, I want to shoot, you know, just as a standard 12-year-old. And he got so attached to the sport because it was fast, it was fun. And as I watched him grow and worked with him and stuff, he did this little plateau to where he was kind of staying about the same. He was getting a little faster every year, but kind of staying the same. And what I come to realize is that he was still growing. So every year it literally got every 2 to 3 months, all these kids, they're growing, their body's changing, their timing's off. I mean, as we sit here and talk, if you can imagine, say that you decided to grow 6 inches over a summer. Can you imagine how bad your mechanics would be off? I mean, your wingspans done grow 6 inches, you've grown 6 inches, the whole mechanics is off. And when he hit that 15, that 14 and a half, 15, his body kind of jumped up there and slowed down a little bit. You just seen him go, I mean, ridiculously fast. And it's even Cole Bush is the same way. It's because I watched him, he kind of hit that point where his body said, okay, this is the height we're going to stop at or get close to. And now the mechanics are there, the brain development's there, and it's phenomenal to watch. And as a shooter and a trainer, I sat back and watched these kids not only get faster and faster, but I watched their responsibility get more and more into where they're actually a more responsible, I hate to say adult, but the whole shooting and the responsibility of that is setting them up for life, I believe.
Absolutely.
Because they are at a range, they're handling firearms, they have to be respectful to people and everything to that nature. And you're just watching these kids get more and more responsible and, just scholars, really.
Oh, you can go down the line. Chase, Cole, both Mackenzie and Zoe.
Oh, yeah.
Max Friedman, Caitlin Bentham. I mean, we just on and on. Emily Cutts, and you just go through, and every one of these kids is a great kid, and a great competitor, and respectful, and a number of them, I've stopped and talked to them on the ranges, and they're just good kids, and it's a testament not only to the parents but to the kids as well. And as you point out, very respectful, but also understanding. I always joke with a friend of mine. It's like, what's fun about this game? They let us shoot guns, and not everybody gets that freedom, and
No.
and we do.
Yeah.
But you have to be respectful. They can be, I'm going to say that way, they can be dangerous weapons. The way we use them, they're not dangerous at all because we follow safety rules, and there's very specific ways in which we shoot to keep them safe. And the kids have proven that, trained right. Venice, 9 years old. And what did you do? You kept her from moving out of the limits until she was ready. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that when done right, just instills a level into the kids that keeps them safe, keeps the sport safe, and keeps it moving forward.
Yeah, and that's 100% correct there. I've seen kids come out and, I would have Venice on the line, and there would be another little girl squatted with us, and this comes to my memory. Her parents, she would get up there and shoot, and her parents would sit way off with her. And we would get up there and shoot and all that. Well, I kind of get to talking to the dad, and he just mentioned, he goes, we didn't want to bother her. And I was like, are you kidding me? I said, yeah, I hollered at Vinny. I said, come here, where's your, or hollered at Noah, where's your football at? And I'd have these kids playing football or soccer or something, at the back of the range, just to show that they're friends, that we're not that way. And to bring them into that big family,
Yep.
It's I get humbled with it at sometimes. I was like, I can't believe that they thought enough of us that they didn't want to bother us. But at the same time, they're going to have to see our true colors because, they are colorful. But it's a tremendous amount of fun with these kids, man. I couldn't tell you the number of matches I've been to and look out. And if you've ever been to Cavern Cove, you could look out in the parking lot, and there's got to be 30 kids out there playing soccer or football, and there's a match going on. And they're so laid back and nonchalant about the match. And till they hit that little bit of, getting up in that little bit older age, when we hit that 15, 16, when it's going, oh, I want to win now. But man, they're just out there having a great time. Yep. And when they get called to the line, and people have mentioned it to me before, I want them to stay serious. Well, I understand that, but you got to realize they're so young. There's so much energy there. They've got to relieve it a little bit, but don't let it go too far. I try to let my kids relieve it a little bit, but we all, Steve's got the girls. He knows when they get to that point that it gets a little out of hand, especially at a young age. They're just wide open.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of pull the reins back on them a little bit and go, okay, let's settle down for a little bit. This is what's going on. And it seems to work out really well, because they're not only are they wanting to go shoot a match with Daddy now, they're wanting to go to the match to see friends. And that's a huge accomplishment.
100% agree. Well, listen, Ron, let's get a little back into actually the Steel Challenge. You shoot a number of divisions, and you shoot for a couple of different sponsors. Why don't you give a shout out to those sponsors?
Man, my sponsors have always been great to me. I mean, Courtson right off the bat, just the best 22s you're going to get a hold of. And people ask me all the time, what have I done to it? And I said, shoot it, just right off the bat. My second biggie is Palmetto State Armory. I met up with those guys about 2.5 years ago, and their carbines are they're running. I can't say anything bad about what the product they're putting out, because it's all U.S. made. A lot of people don't understand that about them, is they're budget minded, and people think that they're cheaper, but they're not. If you really research the company, they want everybody to be able to afford their product. And they're made right there in South Carolina, which is fantastic. Rudy, that helps out my daughter, talking about the safety thing, we was at a match, and I asked one of the Rudy guys, I didn't realize he was one of the team captains. I was like, do y'all make anything that fits you? And before we even got back from the match, she had 2 pairs of glasses there, and they said, let me know what fits. Because she's my daughter. There's no amount of money that can replace her or her eyes while she's up there on that stage. And we're shooting still, and there's frags. And, man, just them, Hogue, GT Targets, even Steel Target Paint guys, I'm there with you. Me and Larry Joe have known each other for a while now, and Larry helps me out, keeps that steel at the home range, Jeff, pretty and white. So
yeah, brother.
Ronnie's like, get off my chest, guys.
Yeah.
But for anybody that's listening in that don't know us or anything else, this is very calm to what happens at the range, by the way.
He's not wrong. He is not wrong.
No. If you really want some entertainment, you hear this podcast, you just come find us, and you will have entertainment.
When you talk to me, keep your hearing protection in. You'll still hear me. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're fine. And we have to bring Steve back down every now and then, because he gets a little bit too big of a following. His head starts to swell. Oh, you ain't safe either, Steve.
That's okay. I was sitting over here being quiet, mind my own business.
Go, Ron.
Get him, Ron.
Yeah, tell him, Ron. Tell him. Oh, too much fun.
Yeah, that's us, man.
Hey, Ron, a couple of guests that we've had on, we've had some owners of companies on and some other shooters. I want to get your spin on sponsorship. What does it mean to be a sponsored shooter? And then the second part of that question is that Jeff and I get a lot of times is, how do I become a sponsored shooter? Would you mind fielding both of those quick for us?
Oh, yeah, sure. Being a sponsored shooter is one of the greatest honors, um, in the fact that someone from that company has seen me, talk to me, something of that nature, and said, this guy right here, will represent our product, and represent it well. Um, and that's just a huge honor in itself. It really is, and I thank them all the time. I know they get tired of hearing it, but I really do. I truly thank them a lot because they provide for me to be able to compete at the level that we compete at. How to become a sponsor shooter is a toughie because owning a firearm business, I've had people reach out to me and they give me this whole sheet of accomplishments that they have. And you read over and go, man, they're, good shooter, great. I've never met the person, so I don't really know them. And I'll tell you this, every sponsor that I have, I met them at the range. I met the owners or someone who was in charge of what sponsorship is at the range. I was either squatted with them, I met them demoing, or anything to that nature. And there's some of them I've reached out to and go, hey, I use your products, can you help me out? I'm doing a new build, or I keep shooting this crappy paint off these plates. Can you help me out? And, you know, but no, me and Larry's known each other for a little while. Actually, before the steel target paint, I believe, came involved. He was shooting out of Cavern Cove with us, and just a great guy. But if somebody's wanting sponsorship or if they're needing help with stuff, the biggest thing is get to the match and talk to people. You'll be really surprised who is there that has connections to help you out.
Right.
And I get, even shooting for different companies, I get asked all the time, hey, can such and such help me? And I was like, well, I don't know. Why don't you contact them? And they'll contact them, and then they contact me. And if I see that they've put in the effort, like if someone asks me on Saturday, hey, can, Hoe Grips help me out, or Volkortsen help me out, or something like that, if I get an email the next day from the owners or who's in charge of that, that shows me a responsibility that those people were kind of on top of it and they was really serious and that I could vouch for them. So that's kind of what I look for, and I could speak on some owners because I am one, what we look for.
Yeah, Ron, and to that point, I don't know if people truly realize how small of a community this industry really is. It's like yourself. I've had quite a few owners of different companies say, "Hey, Steve, you're out and about. You're shooting a lot of these matches. Tell me about such and such." And it's yeah, it's the worst investment a company wants to make is in somebody that's not going to represent the brand or the sport well. So it's not given lightly in terms of sponsorship and running the Steel Target Paint team. We just don't hand out sponsorships left and right. We do a informal background check on people, and yeah, it's nice if people can shoot well and they travel to some matches and have a strong social media presence. But all that goes out the window if somebody doesn't portray themselves in the light that everybody would be proud of to see on the front page of the paper. So appreciate
Right.
appreciate your input on that, Ron, for sure.
No problem. And I have one sponsor, and I'll make a little side note, is um, he told me, he goes, it really ain't winning or losing. He goes, when you get up there and you're having a bad day, mumble under your breath, but as soon as you turn around, if you got a smile on your face and, talk to people, he goes, that's what we're looking for. So because we all get caught in the moment, and it just takes one of those bad moments to make a bad reputation.
Absolutely.
Very true. We've heard now very similar stories from Max, JJ, and none of them said anything about being a great shooter. It's about being a great person.
Yeah.
So.
One of them might have said that if I go out and beat Steve all the time or something to that nature. I don't know. That was over some adult beverages. Just something came up. And that's how I ended up with that one.
Too much fun. Too much fun.
Hey, Ron, when are you going to move out of the state of Georgia so we don't have to beat the snot out of each other all the time when we see each other?
Well, that's it's not going to happen. It came really close this past election, okay? and there's still some federal lawsuits out there on it. So, literally North Carolina is a quarter mile from the back of my property. So, if I moved out of the state, it would just be 2 miles down the road.
I hear you.
That's how close I am to the line up here. But
well,
yeah.
Let me tell you about the first. I don't know if it was that time, Ron, but I think the first time that I'd met you once or twice down at Griffin Gun Club. It's when I think you were under the brand Rim Edge, and you were selling parts for 2245s and whatnot. So
yeah.
We kind of met there, but the first time that we really met and spent some time together, you had this younger kid with you with spiked hair that was trying to find his way. And, what was the gun that he had? It was the Hercules gun. It was green. Is that right?
Oh, I don't forgot what he nicknamed that stupid thing.
Yeah, but anyway, so I had the opportunity to squad with you guys, and this is way before I was taking this stuff extremely seriously. But, I had known of who you are because of, your accomplishments and your shooting accolades throughout time. And so I was a little intimidated, probably because you're 6'7". Oh, that's right. We determined you're only 6'3", but
yeah, right.
So I was a little bit nervous. I was like, man, again, this is probably three and a half years ago, maybe somewhere in there. But, you were the nicest guy, and I remember shooting your Scorpions. I think it's right when you first got picked up by Volquartsen, and, you're extremely helpful. And, no, it was a good time. It was the first time I met Kevin and Summer, Chase's parents, fantastic people. And, that's when I was like, you know what, this is really cool. I need to step my game up and do a little bit of traveling and a little bit of shooting. But I remember that day like it was yesterday. So it was, to what you said earlier, though, Ron, it's, it's just not you. It's just not Jeff and myself. It's, if people should not be intimidated to, whether you're at a match or if it's through social media or whatnot, if anybody's got any questions, just ask, whether it's at a match, like you said, Ron, or, through social media. That's one thing that, and that's why Jeff and I do this podcast, is hopefully we're helping somebody out somewhere along the lines. But, we appreciate, Ron, what you do for the sport. I know you put a lot of time and effort in training and developing, and what you've done with Chase to be the shooter and the person he is today. My hat goes off to you for the time and attention you spent with him. And, man, he's out of control. I knew he took a while to get in the 70s. Now he's
take away the shooting, but take away the shooting, okay? He's just another good kid.
Yeah.
He came up to me at Worlds because I shot it and worked it, and he came up to me, shook my hand, and he says, "You were the best RO we had." And that meant something to me.
Yeah, definitely.
It meant something to me because, not only do I want to take, I take ROing seriously, but the fact that here's a kid who came up and didn't just thank me, but added some, added embellishment in there, and it meant something, and it meant enough for me to remember it, so kudos to him.
That's one of the things, and the memories that we can have. That's one thing that's so attractive to me about the shooting sports is every match I go to is just like every hunting trip I've ever been on. There's these memories that set in. Some of them, most of them, let me rephrase that. Most of them are amazing memories. Some of them are bad memories, from nasty hotels to almost getting mugged at a gas station or something to that nature. But there's always memories, and that's so much fun. And yeah, Steve, I appreciate you telling me that. That means a lot. Telling me that you was intimidated, but I didn't. I was trying to break it to where you didn't feel intimidated, and I really try to do that. And now that you've developed more, you're starting to see that as well.
Yeah.
I know you are. Where different shooters, they've seen your name, they've seen your head on the front of a magazine.
Yeah.
I was going to say ugly, but
I've got a face for radio, right, Jeff?
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. It's a
For
great
podcast.
podcast.
you got a face for podcast. How did it end up in front of a magazine?
That's right.
That's funny. Steve, look at this. 2 parts of a great talk. You get 3 people who are passionate about a sport and what they do. And we talked so much, we had to break it into 2 parts. It's been fantastic. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I know I did. Steve, what do you think?
I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and thank you, Ron. We really appreciate the time that you took out of your personal life to spend the last hour and a half or so with us. Thank you so much for being on. We appreciate it.
Hey, guys, thanks for what y'all are doing. Like I said, I've listened to the podcast, and I know there's so many other people out there that are listening to it, and hopefully they're picking up some good information. And realizing that we're just as human, and come talk to us and start memories with us.
Good to best. Said it better myself. Very good, Ron. Thanks for being on the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks for listening, everybody. Remember, ST Podcast 10 for a 10% discount off of steel target paint, and we'll talk to you next week.